The main reason Neanderthals survived for 400,000 years wasn't their strength, but their fear. In a hostile world, life was a thin line between survival and danger. The popular image of fearless Neanderthals is a fantasy. In reality, they lived in a constant state of alert, shaped by an environment full of threats. What in fact terrified them all day. To understand their fears, we need to go beyond our own perception and dive into a world where every shadow and every noise could mean the end. To understand the world of a Neanderthal, you must go beyond the cliché of the caveman. They lived for about 400,000 years in an incredibly dynamic and dangerous ecosystem, a time of glaciations and extreme climate change. Their lives weren't a story of simple hunting and gathering, but a constant struggle for survival. To unravel the complexity of their world, we use indirect evidence that gives us a clear view of their daily lives. Archaeology, for example, offers us crucial clues. Discoveries of stone tools, hearths, and animal bones show us what they ate and how they hunted. This isn't just the story of a hunter, but the story of how human ingenuity develops under pressure. Skeletal analysis, in turn, complements this picture. The study of their bones reveals the marks of injuries, diseases, and the type of stress their bodies face daily, reminding us that life was short and violence was common. Finally, climate studies help us recreate the hostile environment they lived in, with harsh winters and constantly changing landscapes, showing us that adaptation was not a choice, but a necessity. A Neanderthal's life wasn't just about hunting, but about how to adapt and survive in an unpredictable world. A Neanderthal's life was a web of threats, and the most immediate and palpable fears came from predators. They were not at the top of the food chain, but rather a link in a complex and dangerous network. They competed for territory and food with beasts like the cave bear, the cave lion, and the cave hyena. The wounds found on their skeletons show that they were constantly fighting for their lives. The presence of these predators shaped their hunting strategies and choice of shelters, making the world a place where danger lurked in every shadow. A Neanderthal's greatest fear in a hunt wasn't failure, but injury. Hunting large animals, like mammoths and woolly rhinos, was incredibly dangerous. Spear wounds and broken bones in their skeletons show that they lived with the fear of a debilitating injury, which in their world meant a death sentence. Fear also came from the environment itself. Extreme glaciations, the cold that could kill a baby, the lack of food in a harsh winter, and the loss of a safe territory were constant fears that shaped their actions. But a Neanderthal's fear wasn't just physical. Their complex minds also dealt with deeper, more abstract fears. Although death was a daily reality, the way they treated their dead suggests they feared it in a way that went beyond simple biological loss. The burial rituals, such as at the Shanidar site, and the grief they showed prove that they feared the loss of their loved ones and the idea of the end of life. The fear of death was not just the fear of not existing, but the fear of losing the social bonds that made group life possible. The fear of the unknown was also a powerful force. The night, storms, and natural events could all be interpreted as a mystery or a threat. The mind of a Neanderthal, living in a world without science, saw the unknown as something to be feared. The use of symbols and rituals may have been a way to try to control or understand this fear. They also feared competition for resources or violence from a different group, which could have shaped their interactions. These fears, both concrete and abstract, did not paralyze them. They were the driving force behind their intelligence. Which brings us to our conclusion. Looking at what they feared, we can understand what shaped them. Neanderthals lived under the constant threat of predators in a relentless environment. But instead of paralyzing them, this fear was the driving force behind their intelligence. The fear of being hunted made them smarter hunters, leading them to develop ambush strategies and refine their tools. The fear of the cold drove them to master fire, build shelters, and create clothing that ensured their survival. And the fear of death and loss, as shown by their burial rituals, made them strengthen their social bonds, creating more cohesive and empathetic communities. Neanderthal fear was a form of intelligence, a tool for survival. It's a powerful lesson. Fear, when it doesn't paralyze us, can be the greatest force in our evolution. Far from being a weakness, it's what made Neanderthals such an incredibly resilient species.